Hello everyone, in this class we are going to discuss about clinical trials. So clinical trials is nothing but we are testing a drug, okay, in humans. Okay, when we do that we call it clinical trials. So before we can test something in a human, we have to do preclinical trials, okay, something that is done before a clinical trial. So usually, suppose we want to develop a drug, so the same drug will have to what? Do a testing in laboratory first, right? And that is in labs, right? And also test it on animals, starting from smaller animals, going all the way to bigger animals like monkeys and all, right? So once we have done that and the data and all supports what its use in humans, suppose, then we move to what? Clinical trials. Okay, so the drug then will be called investigational new drug, right? And what we do, we make a plan of conducting the trial, right? That is called protocol, right? And then we submit it to someone called institutional ethics committee, a committee that gives you the permission to do the trial, okay, the clinical trial. Okay, then you go and select the patients and start doing the clinical trial. Okay, so that is the story, right? So how many phases are there in a trial? We usually move through 4 different phases. First is phase 1, then we move to phase 2, then phase 3, and finally phase 4. So as you can see, when we move from one phase to the other, the number of patients are what? Increasing, right? So only if the drug passes the phase 1, it will be able to move to phase 2. If it passes phase 2, it will be able to move to phase 3, and from there to phase 4. Okay. Yeah. So our first phase is phase 1. So what are we going to find out? This is the phase in which we are giving the drug for the first time to humans, right? So we don't know anything before this, right? How is it going to what? Interact with our human body, right? So here we're going to look at the pharmacology, two things, right? Pharmacokinetics and dynamics. So what is pharmacokinetics? We will look at how the drug is getting absorbed by the body, how is it getting distributed, metabolized, and finally eliminated by the body, right? In dynamics, we are looking at how is it interacting with the different receptors, right? So that is phase 1. So you are finding out whether the drug is toxic or not, and what is the maximum dose that a person can tolerate, right? Okay, so in phase 1 we will be taking what? Very few patients, 20, right? 20 patients suppose, and we will what? Monitor them very closely, right? So we will know what they are being given, they will know what they are taking, right? Everything, nothing is what? Hidden, right? So this is called what? Open label trial. Okay, open label trial. If everything is okay in this, if results seem promising, then we move to phase 2, which is also called therapeutic exploratory trial. Now if you want, suppose you had a drug A, right? This is the drug which is undergoing what? Clinical trial, right? It has moved from phase 1 to now phase 2, right? And you believe that the drug has the potential to lower LDL cholesterol, right? Now in phase 1 you're not looking at this parameter, no? Its ability to decrease LDL cholesterol or not. What you were doing were to find, you just wanted to know how is it interacting with human body, right? Whether it is safe or not, right? So once you're done with that, you know it's safe. Now you're moving to the phase 2, where you want to know whether it is able to decrease your LDL cholesterol or not. That is called therapeutic exploratory trial, right? Now, so here efficacy is determined, and also dosage range and safety is assessed. Dosage range, if you give the drug in, for example, 100 mg of drug, how much LDL decrease will be there? If you give 20 mg, how much decrease will be there? If you give 30 mg, how much decrease will be there, right? That is called dose range, right? And the safety is also assessed. Now here you will have what? Still more number of people, right? And it will be in the form of randomized control trial. So it will be what? You will have a control group, right? And an experimental group. Control group will be given the placebo, right? Experimental group will be given the drug, right? And then you compare the results. Okay, so that is what? Phase 2. Okay, it might be in the form of what? Randomized control trials. A lot of patients are involved, 100 to 500. If the results here are also promising, your drug is able to decrease LDL cholesterol, you move to phase 3, which is therapeutic confirmatory trial. Now you're confirming it, right? Here you found out that it is able to do it. Now you have to confirm it, and also you have to compare your drug with a drug which is already there in the market, right? So that is phase 3. Efficacy and safety is confirmed, right? And it is done in still a lot of people, right? So 3,000 people might be involved, and it is done at multiple centers. Okay, multiple centers, right? Now, once the results that you get are promising, what you do? You apply for a new drug application to FDA. Okay, so new drug application you give to FDA. FDA goes through all the preclinical data, then the clinical data, right, and the other things. And then if FDA is sure that the drug is promising, it will give you the permission to market the drug, right? So how many phases are involved before a drug gets marketed? Three phases. This question has come. Three phases are there, right? Okay, three phases. Now, once you get the approval from FDA, what do? You move to phase 4, which is also called post-marketing surveillance. Okay, so you're now the drug is under surveillance after it's been marketed, right? So that's why the name post-marketing surveillance, right? Now, here what is the aim? Here our aim is to detect rare and long-term adverse effects. See, the phase 1 was done for 1 to 2 years, phase 2, 2 to 3 years, phase 3, 3 to 5 years, right? Maximum 5 years, right? Now, when we move to phase 4, here thousands of patients are involved. The drug is being marketed. Now you continue to monitor the drug. And if down the line, maybe after 10 to 20 years, you find that it is causing serious side effects, then you will have to withdraw the drug, right? That has happened with many drugs, right? Okay, so this is what your phase 4. Okay, it is also open labeled. There is no control group or anything like that, right? Everything is open. Everybody knows what is being taken, who is taking it, right? And the effects, right? So phase 1 and phase 2, they are combined when we are dealing with the toxic drugs like anti-cancer, anti-HIV drugs. Now, usually in phase 1, the drug is given to healthy individuals to learn the kinetics. But when we are dealing with the really dangerous drugs like anti-cancer drug, which have the potential to cause cancer, right? We know anti-cancer drug should treat cancer, but it itself has the potential to cause cancer, right? So such a drug you cannot give to a healthy individual, right? Okay, so when we are dealing with such drugs, we combine phase 1 and 2, right, together, and the drug is given to patients, not to healthy individuals, right? Now, there are certain other phases, like we said usually there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 phases, right? Now, you can have a phase 0 before phase 1 and a phase 5 after phase 4, right, which is post-marketing surveillance, right? Now, these phases are not mandatory, but are sometimes done. Okay, so phase 0 is also called microdosing. So before giving the drug to the patient, right, what we do is we give a little bit amount of drug, which is what, 100 milligram, sorry, microgram, okay, 100 microgram to the patient to see how is it interacting with the body, right? So how is it getting it, again, absorbed, distributed, metabolized, and getting eliminated from the body, right? Now, phase 5 is the other name for pharmacoepidemiological study. We have a separate video on this topic. Okay, right. So IEC, Institutional Ethics Committee, which is also called by the name Institutional Review Board, right? What do they do? Before starting a clinical trial, you have to make a plan, right? How you're going to conduct it, which is called protocol, right? So whom you submit this? You submit it to the Institutional Review Board, right? And they, what do? They will what, go through it, review it, monitor it, right, review it, and give you the permission, right? Once they give you the permission, they will what, may come and monitor it periodically, right, to make sure that everything is being conducted according to the protocol, right? So they are what, a regulatory body which monitors clinical trials, reviews it, right, and to make sure that whatever ethical standards are there, that is being met, right? So what are their responsibilities? They make sure that the rights of people who are participating, right, as well as their safety, well-being, everything is what, protected. Okay, then they usually approve the protocol, right? They review it, approve it, right? They make sure that informed consent is being taken from patients before they are participating in the study, right? They also go through the study related documents, right? They make sure that the study is going according to ethical guidelines, and they come and do reviews, right? They come and monitor the trial periodically too. Okay, next is protocol. So what is protocol? It is the plan of the clinical trial that you usually what submit to the IEC, na? Right? So we can call it blueprint of the study, right? So what does it contain? It contains the title and objective of the study, right? Why are you doing the study? The purpose, right? Then it will tell what the study design is, right? How are you going to do the study, right? Then what is the selection criteria, which is called inclusion and exclusion criteria. So if you're doing a study, suppose in a lady, right, in a woman who is above say 40 years of age, and your study wants to know whether drug A is able to decrease LDL cholesterol in women above the age of 40 years. This is your study. What is the inclusion criteria? What is the sex that you need? Women, right? The age should be above 40 years, right? Disease that they should have is they should have high LDL cholesterol, right? So all this becomes what? The inclusion criteria. What is the exclusion criteria? Suppose you don't want a person with some other comorbidities, right? The exclusion criteria becomes having any other disease. Like if a lady has diabetes plus hypercholesterolemia, you will not include that lady, na? Why? Because she has a comorbidity and you don't want that, right? So that becomes what? Exclusion criteria. So based on inclusion and exclusion criteria, which is called the selection criteria, you choose your or select your patient population, right? Okay, so that is mentioned, right? What is your criteria? Then method of treatment. How are you going to give this drug? Give this drug A to the patient that is given, whether you're going to give it orally or not, how many times a day, right? So all these things are mentioned. Now, once you have given the drug, you have to monitor the lab values, right? The LDL cholesterol to know whether it is effective or not, right? How are you going to do that, right? Then, once you get the data, how are you going to analyze the data? Okay, which statistical method you're going to use, that will be mentioned. And informed consent process is also mentioned, right? So this protocol must be approved by whom? The institutional ethics committee, right? Then we go to informed consent, right? Now suppose you have done your everything, what you got the permission from ethics committee, and now you have the patients. Will they participate or not? That you don't know, no? Right? So you have to get informed consent from them. What is informed consent? You inform them of the trial, right, and get their consent to participate. That is called informed consent, right? So that should be given how? Voluntarily. You cannot go and force them, right? They should give it on their own, right? With free will, right? That is called what? Freely given informed consent, it should be. And they should be able to decide for themselves whether they want to participate or not, right? Now, what is present in informed consent? In informed consent, you will have to mention what is the purpose of the trial, why are you conducting the trial, what are the different procedures involved, right? Which and all drug they will have to take, how are they going to sleep, which foods will be given to them, right? Where they will have to stay, everything, right? Everything is mentioned. Then the risk of participating in the study and what are the benefits, right, that they may get. Then their right to confidentiality, that is, if they tell you that in my family nobody knows that I'm participating in this, and you should not tell them. So you should not tell them. That's it. That is confidentiality. And whatever data you collect from them, na, the data that you collect, that also you have to keep what? Confidential. You cannot share their information to any other party, third party, without their consent. If you do that, they have the right to sue you in the court, right? And they have the right to withdraw from the study whenever they want, right? At any stage of the study, and you cannot force them to continue, right? Now, you have to tell them about the alternate treatments that are available, right? You should not tell them that this drug A is the only drug available or going to become available, right, for decreasing LDL cholesterol. No, no, that you should not do, right? You should tell them about the other alternative treatments also, right? And also give them the contact information in case they have any queries to make, or if they have any emergency, right? They will have to contact someone. For that purpose, you have to give them a contact number, right? Now, the informed consent that you get from them, it should be written. Okay, not just saying that they came and said to you, "Let's, I understood everything, and yes, I but choose to participate in the study." That is not enough. You have to get it what? In written, right? And it should be signed and dated by them, right? And it should be what? Made in a language that the patient understands. So if the patient is from a illiterate family, right, suppose, right, where or less, he just speaks his colloquial language, then you have to tell everything in colloquial language and get it done, right? Now, suppose you started, you get the you submitted the protocol, got the IEC approval, right? Now, in between the study, suppose you had to make a change in the protocol, right? That you can make, there's no problem. But the same you will have to again submit to IEC again and get the approval. Now you have a protocol which is different from what you had in the beginning, right? So you have to update the changes there, right, in the protocol, and you have to tell the patient about the risk, right? That should be updated, right? So what is IEC? IEC is an institution known by the name, but Institutional Ethics Committee. It is also called by the name Institutional Review Board, right? Review board, right? So what it does? It reviews and approves what protocols, right? Make sure the clinical trial is being done ethically, the rights, everything is being protected, right? Protocol is the clinical trial plan, right? Informed consent is the written approval of the patient or the human to participate in a clinical trial. So thank you.